Hey, good morning, people. Please, and let me get set here. Sometimes you just get a little tired, guys. Tired. You gotta get tired, because it can get to be too much. And maybe that's the wrong phrase. It's actually designed to be too much. The current craziness is designed to drive you crazy. So sometimes you got to talk about crazy stuff. Hey, good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Jennifer, Stacy, Renee, Katie, everyone. Um, it can be too much. I'm not looking at the news this morning. I like to look at the news. I try to find um, kind of what's going on in the world with our human beings, right? That's all I care about. I care about human life. I care about humans. I don't have an interest in a lot of silliness. I'm an adult. My only purpose on this planet at the age I am, with finally, took a long time, y'all, but finally, the intelligence that I have, the empathy that I have, and the things that I understand that our ancestors always taught us. It's all about making sure the next generation is stronger and better equipped, and to make sure we don't fall in the same traps of the previous generations. And don't get lost in the nonsense. Don't get lost in the things that are unimportant. And I go back to a lot of politicians have said it, but it was actually in a presidential debate, and they asked a question. They said, "What about alien life?" And I think it was Brother Kucinich, because he's seen aliens and UFOs. Me personally, I have not seen aliens and UFOs. Y'all start to think, "Oh, he finally went crazy. The brother went crazy." I did. I have not. I have not. But they asked him, about life in outer space, because Brother Kucinich, he's either he saw UFOs or something, and I think someone else answered the question, and it basically said that why are we worried about life in outer space? We need to be worried about life on Earth. And I don't think that was the right answer. I don't. And the reason why I don't is because if there is nothing else, like if this is it, what are we even fighting for? Like, what if we're like on a planet? We largely know we can't go in space. Really, not on the technology we have. If you ever look at some of the studies of the immune system, space isn't for us. That's just not. We are not. We don't understand the human body yet enough to even think about going out there, which is why we send probes everywhere. Just being honest and real. Good morning, Jeff. And oh, you seen too, Sister Stacy? That's cool. You have to tell me about that sometimes. I haven't seen any aliens, but that's a lie. That's a lie. I take that back. I have seen aliens, y'all. See, people now, they're like, "Oh my God, he done said he done finally snapped. The brother snapped. He said he seen some aliens." I've seen aliens my whole life. Growing up, you're indoctrinated as to who your aliens are, right? When you're first born and people bring you up, you're a purple monster, so you hang with the purple monsters. You're a green monster, so you're supposed to go with the green monsters. You've got this belief system, so you got to be with this kind of monster. Yeah, I'm going back to Sesame Street, and then you meet some kids who are purple too, or yellow, or another color. And you're like, man, I like playing with you. It's kind of fun. You're not as bad as what other people say. And all throughout human history, though, we're always meeting some aliens. We're always meeting some aliens. I worked in the private sector, right? You meet, people in the government sector, they're different. They're some aliens. They're different. They think different. And the reality is, throughout evolution, us just spreading across this planet, they always saw aliens. I'm not talking about outer space, y'all. I'm talking about continent to continent. Rumors of just weird people living thousands of miles that way. They riding dinosaurs. They got flying machines, V-Monus. They, crazy people, Atlantis. Crazy Norsemen who, murder and kill at the drop of a hat. Crazy people like Vikings. There are always some aliens. There are always, and we never. It's always a myth. It's always a myth until we get there. And the aliens are always there. North America, this land over there, milk and honey, and all types of indigenous people. We call them Indians because it's the other side of India. We never met Indians like this, but it's a lush part of India. Go meet the aliens. Finally, we circumnavigated, got everything all around the earth. It's people who live on the ice caps, people who live, Eskimos, it's aliens, There's always somebody that's different. We live in this crazy, crazy universe. Have y'all ever seen the image of the picture? It's the Milky Way galaxy, and it's got a little dot, and it says, it points to one little cluster of stars, and it says, "You are here." I love that picture. I probably posted it a bunch of times. I love that picture. Why do I love that picture? Because you are. You are there. When you think about the vastness of space, it is a mathematical impossibility that there isn't some more aliens living on another North America, some more aliens living on another Antarctica, some more aliens. And why is that important? To me, it's important because once we realize that we are a part of this guild, we are a part of, this group. We're Europeans and those aliens over there. We got to come together. We got to stick together. It tends to bring people together. Anytime there's some others, we all can have something in common because we all got 2 eyes, 2 ears, and a nose. Well, for the most part. So to me, the whole topic of aliens, it's always the same thing. Where somebody says they see something, we say it don't exist, we haven't seen it, and we don't really come together on let's go meet these things. Let's what are these things? We need to. I think one of our problems are we get locked into our hubris, we get locked into our arrogance and our egos, and that if I haven't seen the Norsemen, if I haven't seen the Vikings, they can't exist. It's impossible because I haven't seen them, right? It's illogical. I've never seen anybody live that far north. It's too cold. You can't grow food. Axes that big? You can't make an axe that big. There's not that much metal in the world to make an axe that big, But I think it's an interesting and it's an important thing to kind of think about because we all want to embrace something that's greater, right? We all want to embrace we're a part of something that can become phenomenal. We all want to embrace something that tells us that this silliness that we have right now, it's just not enough. Think about the mission to the moon. The whole planet stopped to watch everybody go to the moon. The whole planet came together. Nations came together to try to be the first ones to get to the moon. Because when you have that adversary or you have that unknown or that possible other, it pulls people together. And is that not how the wars are fought? On the nationalism, where you get people together and there's some others and they're trying to kill us. And I think we always got to think outside of our present realities. Because our present realities, they're always based on the technologies that we have. They're always based on clipper ships. They're always based on, that ability to go find those others. And if we can't get there, they can't be real. I think something is out there. And the reason why I do is because I listen to people a lot more intelligent than I am. I listen to the astrophysicists, and what they say is now that we have the Kepler space station or the Kepler satellite, and we're actually mapping the planets, do you guys know that they say there are more Earth-like planets in just the Milky Way galaxy, than more grains of sand on all the beaches all over the earth. One Milky Way galaxy. There are more Earth-like planets. In fact, they say that our solar system is it's an oddity, and it almost doesn't exist in space because it only has one planet in a orbit that would support life like human beings, like us, in a climate area that we are in. That most stars have multiple Earths, that most stars have multiple planets that can support life like us. Why is that so important today? Because we need something to rally around. I think that if we knew how little and not insignificant, but how that we're just a very small part of something phenomenally great, that curiosity might pull us together. That curiosity might make us earthlings. That curiosity might give us that motivation to maybe stop fighting over the few things we are on this planet and think about what's out there. And so think about this. And so if there are more Earth-like planets just in our galaxy than grains of sand all over the entire planet, think about how many galaxies there are. You know, the first story with the Hubble was that when they put the Hubble in orbit, the first thing they did is they focused on the darkest spot in the sky. Why? Because there can't be anything there. It was smaller than the space of a dime. And they focused on that insanely dark spot where there couldn't be anything. Not where you saw all the other galaxies, all the other lights in the night sky. And it took I think it took 18 hours for the Hubble to actually break down that image and bring up the resolution and render it to see what was in that space. And you know, in that space, what they found? They found thousands upon thousands of more galaxies that we can't even see. And this is what some of the things that they use to try to determine how big the universe actually is. And the fact is, we can't see the ends of it. But think about, there are billions upon billions of galaxies. And in all of them, there are billions upon billions of Earth-like planets. And the reason I said that is because if we think about whatever you believe, right? Whatever you believe the Big Bang, you believe there's a God creator, you believe there's some aliens, geneticists. To me, I think they're all the same thing. But if you accept that we have so many more places to go, if you accept that every civilization that's ever existed on the planet, the vast majority, they all died out, all of them. And it's speculated that if we ever actually get into space and we start exploring, that we're going to find destroyed planet after destroyed planet after destroyed planet, from nuclear holocaust and whatever else. Because obviously when you get a species on a planet, or even multiple species, and you have limited resources based on that technology of the time, those beings are going to be predisposed to killing each other and fighting over the last of the resources until the last of them die. And so I think we got to be smarter than this. I think we have to think bigger than this. I don't think the right answer is we can't worry about life in space. We got to worry about life on Earth. I think if we actually knew that there was something out there, that the planet actually would come together. That if we knew there was a next step, a next place to go, that oil wouldn't be so significant. Cobalt and coltan and all the things that everybody finds okay, or a lot of people find okay, to murder people for. I want to play you something real quick. I listened to a brother by the name of Michio Kaku. Love Michio. Real intelligent brother from Japan. Phenomenal kid growing up. And this brother, he just has a mind that just You know, a mind can be sexy. This brother has a sexy mind, you know. If you understand what I'm saying, if you don't understand what I'm saying, then, you know, I'm sorry. But, you know, he thinks about things that we don't think about. He thinks about things that we should think about. But I'm going to play this clip for just a few minutes. I want him to explain something to you real quick.
We physicists look in outer space for alien life. We don't look for little green men. We look for type 1, type 2, and type 3 civilizations. A type 1 civilization has harnessed planetary power. They control earthquakes, the weather, volcanoes. They have cities on the ocean. Anything planetary, they control. That's type 1. A type 2 civilization is stellar. They've exhausted the power of a planet, and they get their energy directly from their mother star. They just don't get a suntan on a weekend. They use solar flares. They use the power of the sun itself to energize their huge machines. Eventually, they exhaust the power of a star, and they go galactic. They harness the power of billions of stars within a galaxy. Now, for example, Buck Rogers would correspond to a type 1 civilization, a planetary civilization. Star Trek and the Federation of Planets, who have colonized a few star systems, would correspond to a type 2 system. And the Empire of Star Wars would correspond to a type 3 civilization. Now, what are we on this scale? We are type 0. We don't even rate on this scale. We get our energy from, not from stars or galaxies, we get our energy from dead plants, oil and coal. But we can calculate when we will attain type 1 status, in about 100 years. Now, every time I read the newspaper, I see evidence of this historic transition from type 0 to type 1. And I am privileged to be alive in the most important era in the history of the human race, the transition from type 0 to type 1. I read the newspaper, and I see evidence of this everywhere. What is the European Union? The European Union has been formed to oppose NAFTA, that is, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. But why? Because we're seeing the beginnings of a type 1 economy. Huge planetary trading blocks are the beginnings of a type 1 economy. And what language will this type 1 economy speak? Everywhere I go around the world, I find that the elites all speak English as a second language.
They all speak English. I'm going to stop there, and you can watch the whole thing. I'll post it. But listen to what he's talking about. We are living at a time that has never come before. That don't mean nothing, because everybody lives at a time that has never come before. But we are on the precipice. Like, if you think about how fast we've gone with technology in this short period of time, like, we are on the verge of technology exploding into a type 1 civilization, exploding into a species that controls the power of the planet. And the significance of that, like the significance of getting up to that point, will determine, will we destroy ourselves, or will we actually become something greater? Will we be one of those few civilizations that are way out there that actually become something? And if we can't figure out that the most important thing is survival, it's always been the most important thing. The most important thing is survival. Then who controls all of that? That's everything. Everything. Whoever controls that world economy, that type 1 civilization, pre-type 1 civilization, that will determine if the human race will survive, or perhaps who from within the human race will survive. And that's the criticality of the times right now, and us digging a little deeper and thinking about what we are, not necessarily who we are, but what we are. Because it's obvious at the top. You know, you like to think that somebody's driving, right? I don't think anyone's driving. I honestly don't. And the reason why is, if you look at greed on a small scale, you know, small businesses, whatever, There's really no one driving all of that. They're all just fighting over resources, and there's always a fight to see who can get the most, right? It's competition. It's how it works. And so at the tops of the world, the corporations that run all of this, I think they're all fighting too. It stands within reason that they're all fighting over the most power they can get and the most power and control they can have. And so if nobody's driving this earth, no one's driving this global economy, no one's making sure that it progresses into type 1. It's illogical to think that we're actually going to make it. It's completely illogical. The vast majority of civilizations have all gone extinct, whether they ran out of their resources, someone came in, killed them, they killed each other. The vast majority of civilizations have all gone the way of the dinosaur, perhaps because they didn't have a plan, perhaps because nobody was driving, perhaps because they couldn't come together, for whatever reasons there are. I talk about a lot of reasons people can't come together. But as we progress into that world economy, because we are, and no matter how nationalistic you want to think your leaders are, no matter how religious focused you think they are, no matter how liberal or progressive you think that they might be, there is a massive push to just consolidate resources by massive corporations that tell them all exactly how to behave and what to do. And if we don't pull those reins back, if we don't stop building up the anger and the hate that we are breeding everywhere, we don't get to make it. We don't, because if someone is always out looking out to get you, out to kill you, out to destroy you, eventually they'll get it. I was talking to someone yesterday. I was on a thread. I think I said something like, we can win the war on terror by just bringing the troops home. That's it. And the war is won. Because if you are someone who's paying attention, you understand that all we're doing is we're making terrorists. It is beyond the most important thing that we have to do. We have to stop making hate. We have to stop making terror. I don't have interest in politicians who talk about they want to fight hate and write legislation for hate and stop the abuse and defend women, and we don't want them being abused. And on the other hand, they're digging deep into cultivating that hate. They are breeding that abuse. And in other countries, on an exponential scale, right? Like they're trying to launch legislation now. There are a few politicians that got their head on straight. Well, that's not true. There are a few that have it on straight, but they're trying to launch legislation to slow down the war in Yemen, to stop supporting Saudi Arabia as much as we do. But there are countless other wars that are going. There are rumors of wars that are constantly going. Exponentially, we are making this hate for us. Exponentially, we are motivating people who just want the whole thing to burn down. And it is just a matter of time. It's not a if they get a nuclear weapon. It's a win. It's completely a win. It's a win they get some sort of a massive weapon to break down this society that brought them so much hate and so much pain, that killed their children or killed their parents, because some corporations wanted to control the oil or the minerals or the coltan. This is why it's so important that we back up. One of my good friends had a response to me, which was actually two people did. They said, well, we can't bring the troops home until we stop, till we build up the borders, till we stop people from coming in the country. And as much as I love these people, there's no comparison. There is no deal to be made to stop murdering people. There's no deal, y'all. There's no, we can do this if this. When you do something that is a mistake, you fix the mistake. There will be consequences, right? There will always be consequences. But our options are, do we stop the mistake from getting bigger and bigger and bigger exponentially, or do we stop it now in this generation and deal with the consequences of our own ignorance and perhaps some of the ignorance of our parents. And it's not a malicious ignorance, but it's an ignorance that of not knowing, a lack of knowledge, right? We live in a censored company, a censored company. We do. We probably do. We live in a censored company, but we have the ability to deal with these things now. And I just asked that question, and I think that's the only reason I even opened my big mouth. Why don't we deal with this now? Why don't we think about, we are just a little dot, and that's not the Milky Way galaxy back there. I can't have the Milky Way galaxy, because when I do that, friends of mine say, well, who took the picture? And that conspiracy bone gets to going. But that's another galaxy taken from the Hubble, and it's a spiral galaxy, so it kind of looks like our galaxy. But we can get to a place where we look out for people, but you can't get there until you stop murdering people. Right? You can't get there until you stop destabilizing countries and building up that hatred. Where that one little kid, the kid who ends the world, he could be 5-year-old right now, and he could be sitting in Yemen starving. He could be sitting in Syria with no water. He could be sitting under rubble in Afghanistan or Iraq, thinking about, looking at his family, his relatives dead. And that kid develops that passion, making sure he just ends America. And he does anything he can to actually get his hands on the nuclear weapon and puts us all out of our misery. Right? This is why it's so critical that we stop now. We have to have a stand down, because we don't know what's out there. You guys, I'm going to tell you something crazy. I don't know if I mentioned it before. I probably did. My father was a satellite engineer. He worked crazy stuff, crazy. He was a mathematician. I hate math. He's a mathematician. And, he took us to work. They had a family day one day. We went to work, family day. The kids went. And we all sat down at his desk, and we all got a chance to look at satellite pictures. And they actually pulled up a picture of our house. And this had to be the early 80s. In the early 80s, I saw satellite pictures of my house where I could actually see my bike in the driveway. Do you realize you can barely do that on Google today? Do you think about that for a minute? 30 years ago, and if this wasn't classified then, obviously, they had it a long time before that. You ever ask yourself why, when they show pictures of the moon and Mars and the planets that we actually go to, the pictures are always so blurry? The pictures are always so faded. We have companies that have had cameras that are 30 years old that can get pictures from orbit that can show you a BMX bike. But every time they send a probe up and they spend $1 billion on it, they send it up with a Polaroid camera to all you can see is a couple miles, but you can't make out any detail. Ask yourself why sometimes. You can say, oh, well, because they don't want the Russians to know, Russia, They don't want the Russians to know the level of optics that we have. There ain't a child on this planet that doesn't know the level of optics we have. They can go out on Google Moon, Google, I think there's a Google Mars now, Google Earth. Everybody knows. But still, they send up billion-dollar satellites with Polaroid cameras. Does that make any sense to you? Or is there something that they don't really want you to see? And I don't have any answers for that, right? I have friends who have answers. I have friends who work for NASA who will tell you what's on the moon. They will tell you that we aren't being told the truth. And there's a lot, I look at sometimes, I don't need to know the truth to form an opinion, right? All you need is probable cause and enough evidence and perhaps an eyewitness to say, you know what, something doesn't smell right. And when you have, I think it's thousands now, it's thousands. It was Dr. Greer who put this group together, thousands of people who worked for the CIA, the FBI, the federal government on different projects, who all want to come forward and testify in front of Congress that there's something out there and they've worked on this stuff before. They've reverse engineered things. They've seen pictures of the moon. They've seen things that they've worked on technologies that could perhaps replace oil as the fuel on our planet. Like, I honestly, I don't know that I care so much if our government comes out and says, you know what, it's a whole bunch of alien life out there because there are a whole bunch of planets. I don't know that I care about that because I already know the answer to that question. This big old melon, it does what it does, right? I already know the answer. If you don't know the answer to that question, you really got to spend a little more time in science, but in mathematics. But what's more important is we're still invading a world on these concepts and the ideas of securing energy and securing minerals. And so we're on a concept that's completely outdated. And as long as we allow them to keep this narrative that our economy will collapse, we need the oil, we need oil reserves, we need the minerals. If we don't do this, America is going to fall apart. If we allow them to keep that narrative instead of forcing the use of extremely high technology that all these people say that they've worked with to produce light and to replace fossil fuel, driving cars and lawnmowers. I remember there was a guy, I remember how old I was. I was probably about 17 or something. Pop brought him by the house, worked at the Pentagon. And we were going into the first Gulf War, and I knew everything. I was talking about how the M1 Abrams, we're going to do this and do that. We're going to take out Saddam and freedom. And, we wanted to see a war back then because we really didn't see too many wars. And I love military technology. I wanted to see the F-4s and F-16s. I wanted to see something happen. Dumb kid. But we were going to take Saddam out. And this cat, one of the guys that my father worked with, he pulled me aside that night. He said, let me tell you something real quick. He said, there are two realities. He said, there's the reality that we let the general public see, and then there's the reality that none of us really know the extent of. He said, I've worked on projects that prove to me that we have technology that we don't have to go to Iraq and fight a war. We don't have to, this is all for television. He said, do you like sci-fi? Yeah, I love sci-fi. I love my Star Trek. Love sci-fi. He said, everything in that show, we've already done. He said, we've already done it either on a micro scale or on a macro scale. But we've already done it. We just secure these things for national security. And if we don't push the limits of truth, if we don't, is that true? I'm not trying to convince anybody of anything. But the thing I'm trying to convey to you is it still fits within the same point of if we're not allowed to know the truth, then we're all fools. We all are subjects of 1%. If we don't know the truth, we can't form good opinions or good decisions because we really don't even know what's true, what's real. And the idea that you have thousands of people who come forward, whistleblower after whistleblower, there's so many whistleblowers you can't even keep up with them anymore, that are saying that we are being lied to from top to bottom. And the most important thing that we're thinking about is fighting with somebody else over some little piece of legislation for something. I don't know, Sister Mary just asked, why are we not being told the truth? And I think that's the $40 billion trillion question, Mary. What is it that is being planned that is so important that they invest so much in terms of resource in hiding the truth from us? that every time they get a chance, they're always trying to censor something. They're always trying to hold back the internet. They're always, what is it that would be so problematic that they can't dare let America find out? They can't dare let the rest of the world find out. I think, so just Jeannie said we can't handle the truth. I think we can't handle not handling the truth. I think we are at a place of criticality. We're at a place of the world clicking over, and the technologies that are being developed could easily destroy the world. You know, there was a time where you couldn't make a bomb. Now you can download bomb directions on the internet. And if technology continues to grow exponentially as it is, there'll be a time where you can make a nuclear weapon from the internet. That information will get out there. This is what technology does. As we dig up uranium in more and more places, it becomes more and more abundant, and you will get to a place where someone can make an atomic weapon. And so our security isn't in killing people. Our security is in making sure people love us, right? It's in making sure they care about us. Like what I was saying a little while ago, securing a neighborhood and securing a planet's the same thing. You want to secure your neighbors, you don't go threaten them with a gun. You don't go shoot their kids. If you want to secure a neighbor, if you want national security, or you want neighborhood security, you go bake them a pie. When somebody moves to the neighborhood, you go check them out. Say, hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. You know, let me tell you everything I know about the yard and this, that, worry about this, and it rains and this and that, blah, blah. And here's the township information. Like, you make a friend, right? You build up a vested interest in them not killing you. That's security. We don't do that. We make the world less secure. And so, but we can change that any day we want. We can change it any day we want. We can make the right things go viral. We can make our neighborhoods more safe. They don't have to have secrecy. Secrecy is a right we grant them. They don't grant us any rights. The citizens run this country. We grant them that right to have the secrecy. And at a certain point in time, how many people do they have to murder? How insecure do they have to make the world until we say you no longer have the rights to secrecy? We need to know it all. We need to know it all. We need to pluck and pull every technology we can to make our neighbors more secure. If you do have this UFO technology, whatever, Tesla technology, whatever it is, we need Syria to have this. We need the Congo to have this. We need Puerto Rico to have this right now. It's not a request, it's a demand. And the only way we know that they'll have that is we got to know it all. Everything. There can be no more secrets. JFK files, picking and choosing what's going to be redacted. Nothing can be redacted because we got to know everything, because that's the only way the human race can continue to evolve and make good decisions. There can be no secrets. We have to know it all. And I don't think they even know it all. You know, based on how things are decompartmentalized and what some of the whistleblowers come forward and say, they say, you know, I don't know the whole thing. I just know I touched this piece right here, and this means fossil fuels should not even exist. Those are the people who we need to listen to. So it's a whole group of them. I think it's about 1,000 of them. I think Dr. Greer put them together. But the most significant thing about what this group says that I kind of pay attention to is they're all willing to testify in front of Congress that all of this technology exists. And to lie in front of Congress is a federal offense. It's a crime. And I asked myself, why hundreds, up to 1,000 people want to come forward and land in federal prison on a lie? So these people are telling the truth. And we do have the technology. You don't even have to go to the conspiracy level of, you know, Nikola Tesla and how they killed him, and Edgar Casey and the brother that made the car that ran on water, and all of these scientists all over the world who all magically just disappear. They die, cancer gets them, something happens. The idea that any sort of energy device that creates more energy that it takes, and we know that exists. How do we know that exists? Look at the universe. Where did all that come from? Whether you say it's God or the Big Bang, something took something that was nothing and made significantly more energy out of it. So the idea that free energy doesn't exist is completely logical in every concept. We know it exists. We know that you can make significant masses of energy out of almost no energy, out of almost nothing. Because if you believe in God or if you believe in the Big Bang, that proves it. The technology is there, whether you call it smoke and mirrors and mystified or, a massive plasma explosion. So if these whistleblowers are right, and there's a lot more out there than in terms of technology that's hidden in places in America, then what are all the wars for? Why are we killing everybody? Why is this massive consolidation of wealth and why all the secrecy? So, and Trent just said technology will destroy the earth. And I agree. Technology will destroy the earth. It will. Because the smartest men of our time, the smartest women of our time, our theoretical physicists, our philosophers all say that. Technology is what always ends up destroying us. And we lead that race. The majority of our GDP is used for murder technology. Technology to figure out how to kill a human being faster, more efficiently. And when we're done with that and we've got a better and a quicker way to kill a lot more people, we sell it off to our allies. And when they're done with it, we sell it off to our enemies. And so we've got this worldwide arms race. Russia's been ramping up. China's been ramping up. So instead of making our neighborhood more secure, we're literally forcing every other nation to try to make more powerful weapons to murder human beings. However old you are, 60, 50, 40, 20 something, does that seem logical to you? Does that seem logical in any way to support groups who are doing that? When you destabilize a community like the Bloods and the Crips, doesn't that community fall away? Doesn't that just become just a violent area? Their area is so violent in our country, police won't even go into. And it makes sense to do this with the world. This makes sense. It makes sense to use the Crips and the Bloods and let the Crips and Bloods do this to the world. After 50, 40 years, 60, 70, 80 years, how old you are. That's the extent of what you think is a wise decision. So I'm off in space today. I don't have a whole lot of, I like to laugh a lot, but I'm a little tired. And this is where I go. I go to my space place because everybody's got to have a place. You got to have a place. You will go crazy if you just sit there and you look at the illogical, stupid things that are being allowed to happen around our world. I go to space because to me, it makes it real that there's something more, that there's something more worth pushing and fighting for, right? There's something more that's out there, and the wars are for power and control, yes, and the question is who holds that power. Either that power is going to be held as a collective human race, a collective earth race, or we all die. I mean, do you really think that America is going to rule the world? Like, really? Do you know how many countries have tried that? Do you really think America is going to rule the world? And if they actually succeed at locking down every nation, do you think your life is going to stay the way that it is? Do you think your security is in the Crips winning out and murdering all the Bloods? What do you think those leaders are going to do with that bloodlust once they take over the world, once they take over the neighborhood? You think you're going to be okay? You're not. You know, and that's where our security comes from. Our security comes from a republic, a world republic, a national republic. You know, small, broken down groups of human beings that self-determine how they want to live and understand the communities, the small pockets of humans around them are their security. Their health and their wealth, their security is your security. These are the things that I think about. I see what y'all are talking about. Um, I'm just a little tired. You get a little tired of the news sometimes. You don't even want to pay attention to it sometimes. Sometimes you just want to think about. You got to remember, why we do all this. You got to go spend time with your kids, spend time with your family. Remember what's so important. That we take the time to try to wake people up, to try to melt those cold hearts, those justifiably cold hearts, right? Remember that too about your brothers and your sisters. Their hearts are justifiably cold. They had some real bad things done to them. And they had some real bad things done to them by the politicians I voted for. Right? I'm complicit in that. I'm not, some of my friends, they'll say, don't use the word we so much. But I am a part of it. I did do that. I hurt people. I hurt a lot of people by who I used to vote for, by the agendas I used to support, right? And I own that. And that's why I don't judge anybody. No matter how far you are on the deep right or how far you are on the deep left, I'm totally complicit in the pain that was brought because they divided everybody up. And so that's why I say we, because it helps me. I understand if you don't want to say we. I need to constantly attach myself to the evil that happens on this planet because it lets me listen. It means I can listen to ideas I don't necessarily agree with. It means I can listen to people I didn't grow up around. People that might talk a little funny. People that might drive a different car, people who might live in a different place. Because remember, you're here. Like, look at that little dot. It's a little dot right there. You're here. We are here. And if you really think about the insignificant, silly little things that people fight over, we have to do whatever we can to bring this to an end because it's the right thing to do. And we got to do it in our generation. There's not a lot of time left. We don't have a lot of time to fight over Lincoln Logs and tiddlywinks. We don't have a lot of time for the blue Muppet to fight the red Muppet. That stuff has come to an end. It's time to pull your big panties up. Time to be an adult, Sister Mary said the elites feed, control, and they control the divide. They control the divide. I totally agree. They design the divide. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what they're doing, but I don't think they know how this ends. They don't know the resolve of the human being. The resolve of the human being, with love in his heart, is capable of anything. The resolve of the human being that you've done wrong generation after generation after generation, that hate will destroy a planet happily. Happily. Think about the time we live in. Like to judge people. Like to say, they're horrible people. They'll strap bombs to their chest and they'll go murder a bunch of people. I get that. Would you ever think about the level of pain it takes somebody to get to a point where to them it would be a logical idea to blow up a whole cafe, to blow up a whole world? It's an awful lot of pain. Maybe focus on the pain that it takes for people to get there and not the actual act. Caitlin said, hopefully the aliens will intervene and change our ways or wipe us out. Caitlin, I listened to what I think Brother Neil talked about, Neil deGrasse. I think Neil said it first. He said, he said the planet Earth, because there's so much out there, the planet Earth is kind of like an anthill, in a rainforest or on your way to work. And on your way to work, do you stop and look at the ants? Do you say, Ants, I bring you technology. You're so interesting, Ants. I love you. I want to help you. You know, Ants, you have resources that we don't have. And we want to, you know, that old piece of peanut butter and jelly sandwich you got off the picnic table here, we're going to take that from you and we're going to kill somebody. I don't think that's necessarily realistic. I think we are largely insignificant in, you know, where we are. You know, there are planets of gold out there. There are planets of diamonds. There are planets of you think of the rarest resource that we have. There are planets full of it. If there is anything out there, the reason it doesn't come here is because we are insignificant to its travel to work. It's flying through the solar system. It's going to work. I don't think that they're going to save us, and I don't think they're going to hurt us. I mean, I think it's possible that maybe there are some that are just kind of evolved where we are, and, you know, maybe, you know, but if they've got to a point where they can actually get to us, I don't think we're significant anymore. I think maybe instead some of my friends who've seen UFOs and stuff, maybe they're just here on, you know, field trips and they're just looking at us weird creatures because we look funny and we murder each other. You know, maybe that's it. But I don't think they would ever invade. I don't think we have anything they find any interest in, and I don't think they have any interest in helping us because we have to be not even a dime a dozen. We have to be a dime 100 billion. When you just think about it from a Milky Way galaxy, let alone the other planets. You know, but, you know, if we're going to save anything on the planet, we got to save ourselves, y'all. Like, this is our species, you know, we're just zoo animals to them if they come around. It's about us coming together and us pulling ourselves up. I don't think that they have any interest in doing anything with us. Sister Jeannie said, there's no success without a greater degree of failure. Failure is our best teacher. That's how we learn how to walk up steps. It's how we learn the oven is hot. It's probably why we shouldn't be raising clones in our schools, and we should let our kids learn mistakes. We should let them fall. You know, we should let some of them fail, because when they learn how to fail, you learn how to succeed. You know, it drives you to that success. Yeah, I listen to Carl Sagan every now and then too. I like Carl Sagan, Sister Mary. Sister Rebecca said, I'm not sure your vote even counted with all the fraud that goes into the elections. So ease up on the guilt. You know, Rebecca, I don't know, sister. It's not so much that I believe in the elections, and it's not really so much guilt. Like, in terms of the elections, it's, when I say support, it's support. Like, you know, it's not just voting, but it's support in concepts, right? Like supporting the concepts about race, supporting the concepts about, you know, you need to adopt my religion. You need to, whatever, like supporting concepts of that my group has the ability to tell your group how to live your life on your land. So it's not so much voting, it's being complicit in a society and not supporting freedom in, you know, in our fellow humans, right? Like, it's that base level concept that I'm talking about. And in terms of the guilt that I feel, it is a guilt. It is guilt. You're right. It is guilt. But I'm gonna repeat after Star Trek. I got to go back to Star Trek. Let me see, which captain was it? I think it was Captain Kirk. It was Captain Kirk. There was some alien species that was going to take away his pain, right? And because they could make you feel good, you know, and they were putting people in these dream worlds or whatever, dream states. And he says, you can't take my pain. I need my pain, because my pain makes me who I am, right? And I kind of look at my guilt that way, and I look at my failures that way, to put those two comments together. My pain and my guilt, they make me who I am. Like, they perfect the amount of empathy and love I can show other people. So I don't beat myself over the head with it, you know. So I see where you're going with it, definitely. But I use it as a means to attempt to do things and talk to people I normally couldn't, if I didn't, you know, tap into that, you know. I get where you're from. I understand where you're from, you know. I think that's what we need. Patty asked, and there are many different colonies of aliens. I think, Patty, that someone would have to be crazy to think that there aren't colonies. I'm a Christian, and what I believe. Like I said, I don't believe what a lot of Christians believe. I think that we recorded best we could what this species, this thing told us, and I think that there is some engineering species that is just out there flying around making colonies. And I think we're a colony. I think that some genetic engineer came here and saw the monkeys and whatever else and grabbed DNA from this. It grabbed the dust of the earth and it constructed together this creature. And we tried to write down what it said, the things that we could understand. And we probably messed a lot of it up. And I think there are all types of colonies out there. I think it's probably an infinite number. I think that species, whatever it is, it pushed us so far apart that it knew there was no way we'd actually come in contact with another colony that it set up unless we proven that we could come together on a planet. And we did learn empathy and we did learn love and we learned all these things that were taught through all the religions. If we didn't learn how to do that, we would cease to exist, right? Like with any civilization that doesn't learn how to come together and look out for its neighbor as much as it looks out for itself, if not more. All the teachings in all these religions, if we didn't learn to do that, then we would never reach other stars. We would never reach other planets where we could do any real damage. And so I think that's why there are probably lots of colonies. I think that we're spread apart because we have to learn how to work together before we really should be dealing with any more aliens. I mean, we don't deal too well with aliens today, if you think about it. We never dealt with the aliens well in the past. Look at the colonies that the colonization that we're involved in the other continents around the world. Yes, Sister Mary, the movie Contact was amazing. I loved it. One of my other favorites was that Kevin Spacey movie, the K-Pax. I loved it. And I think K-Pax actually really touched on what I think is probably realistic of, some being having omnipotent power and, quantum physics and the ability to, project things across the universe. Like, I think that's all technology like fax machines. We always think that something can't exist. We always think that, the fax machine, it'll never exist. It makes no sense. It's not possible. And someone always invents it. And so that's probably one of the ones I love as well. But I'm going to say this, and I'm going to end on this one. I pushed it a little time this morning. This morning, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about just really realizing how small we are, how powerful we all are as a group, but how small we are really in the grand scheme of things, that we are just here. But some of the other movies I love, I love the alien invasion movies. Y'all like those? I love the alien invasion movies, where the human race comes together and we fight off the aliens. That's the biggest lie on the planet. If the aliens ever come here, we are done. We can't even fight bacteria. Y'all know that there's a plastic that's in the ocean right now that's learning to eat our plastic. This thing that we thought would last for millions of years, nature is constantly evolving and it's learning to outcompete the species that aren't smart enough to learn how to survive and work together to survive. And so this whole idea that we're going to fight off some aliens is not true. I like the idea of people coming together, but it's not going to work. Which is probably another reason why we have to know all the truth about everything our government knows about everything, because it's not theirs. And this idea that they're going to hide technology from us that could save life, and they only use it as murder tech to take life, it's not palatable for me. I wish I were some of you who that was palatable for. It's not palatable for me. It's not acceptable, which is why I speak up the way that I do. I will never accept that my intellect and my being alive is being used in some sort of consolidated fund to murder people. It's not acceptable. I'm not okay with that. That's why I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. I can't see that I ever will be again. But I will sit here and I will talk about the human beings around the planet and what we need to be doing, saving their lives, because I'm a human being first. I don't believe in murder. I'm a Christian. Those are things taught to me. Murder's never okay. Not when the kings do it, not when anybody does it. And I won't support it. I'll always think about something bigger and something greater, because I think that's what God had in mind. Whatever you call it, I think that's what it had in mind, something bigger and greater. If you're a science mind, it's obviously what bacteria had in mind, and working together in smaller communities and building multicellular organisms and getting stronger and working together. It's all about working together, you guys. It's all about working together. So that's where I'm going today. I certainly appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of watch me walk through some of the thoughts I have about us. And if you ever just get bored, take some time, go look at some Hubble pictures. Go look at what's out there. Look at just how amazing and what we don't know and what's beautiful. Some of the most beautiful pictures you will ever see come from the Hubble. And maybe I think that you just have to look at what beauty really, really is and how much is out there. And sometimes when I see these pictures, it just makes me think about how insignificant my little problems are and how important it is that I do everything I can to make sure one of the next generations gets a chance to see what's in these beautiful places. And it doesn't begin with grouping up with people and supporting this idea that murdering others for what they have is a good thing. So anyway, that's what I'm thinking about this morning. I certainly appreciate you guys taking the time. Y'all have a wonderful day, and always think about other people more than yourself, because that's the only way we get to survive.